I mean,
people have to pay attention.
It goes back to the original thing. Had I not, on that fateful day when Charlie Crist was in town, if I hadn't have picked up a microphone and said, you know, Governor Crist, if you could maybe give them some encouragement, we
never would have happened.
Nothing. In
my opinion,
they would have continued to ignore it. So let's go over the recommendations, and ladies and gentlemen, there's one of these that really gets Deborah excited. While we find that no violation has occurred, we do make the following recommendations. Well, see, that's kind of maybe an oxymoron to me.
This is in regard to the electronic devices.
Right.
A violation had occurred with regard to the Sunshine Law with Team Santa Rosa.
Item number 1, while Santa Rosa County should adopt a policy to prohibit the use of private emails to conduct county business.
Which they did.
Which they did. I'm good with that. Item number 2 is the one that you threw flags up about. Number 2, while not strictly prohibited, commissioners should be cautioned against using emails to communicate with each other. Well, dear state attorney, it is strictly prohibited for county commissioners or elected officials to use private emails or county-based emails to have conversations with each other.
About public business.
About public business.
I mean, they can communicate
on, you know, they can talk about
their vacation.
They can talk about Farmville if they want to, but this is ridiculous. This is coming from the organization who is supposed to oversee this. Let me read it again, ladies and gentlemen. While not strictly prohibited, commissioners should be cautioned against using emails to communicate with each other. It's called Chapter 286, Mr. State Attorney. They are strictly prohibited from having business conversations amongst each other. They can only have those conversations at noticed meetings where minutes are kept. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you'd write something like that in there.
Well, he's saying in general they shouldn't. You know, because of what happened with the other email that we just talked about earlier is, you know, you're talking about the weather and then all of a sudden you start mentioning things that...
I think maybe the investigative team that looked into this maybe should read the Sunshine Law. It says all forms of communication are prohibited except in a notice meeting where there's minutes taken. You know. And then the last one is, if emails are used, they should contain a disclaimer indicating that no response should be sent.
Yes.
And look, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you this. There is a fine line. A county commissioner, let's say, for example, he sees something on the internet that he thinks might be a good thought for Santa Rosa County. He could send that link to the other 4 commissioners, and I really don't have a problem with that. Maybe it's you know, the greatest idea since sliced bread, and we should adopt it. The problem comes in when they start discussing it in those emails. So, now one thing that I took exception to, and to be quite honest with you, I was kind of shocked. I went forward that day when the policy was adopted, and I think I went up there with all humility. I thanked them for having a new policy. I appreciated the fact that the Sunshine Law was being elevated, and I thanked them. And I turned around and as I was walking away, the county attorney chimes in and says, well, Mr. Chairman, this policy goes above and beyond the Sunshine Law. And you know, to the county attorney, I went up there with humility. Let me tell you, there's stuff all through this report where you and everybody else knows violations occurred. Maybe it didn't reach the level for the state attorney to take criminal action, but violations occurred. I went up there humble, thanking them for the policy, and you had to throw your little snippet comment in. All forms of communication are covered in this. This policy does not go above and beyond the Sunshine Law. It reinforces the Sunshine Law. The final thing, and we've talked about this a lot, so
yes, we have.
We'll make it pretty quick. That was the purchase of the Pullum property.
Yes.
And just to
$3.2
million, yes. And just to
and I don't think I'd call it shovel ready, but it has been referred to as being shovel ready.
Well, it's not shovel ready. No
infrastructure.
I don't care what Gordon Good and Don Salter or Bob Cole says. I guess they thought if you say it enough, it'll make it shovel ready.
Right. Wishing will make it so.
Yeah. But just to reiterate everything that went on there, in 2001, we have the minutes from the meeting that show where Bill Pullum himself was elected as chairman of the Land Acquisition Committee.
This is in Team Santa Rosa.
Within Team Santa Rosa. In 2005, Gordon Good made a trip to the island, Bill Pullum's private island. Interesting.
Now they say that's coincidence.
Yeah, it was coincidence.
And they say that Pullum's presence on that committee hadn't influenced their choice.
Right. But we really wouldn't know, because they were having a series about 9 years worth of illegal sunshine violating meetings where the public was never invited to attend.
You're talking about Team Santa Rosa.
Right. So we wouldn't know what the opinion was over there. The citizens didn't know what was said over there.
That is correct.
Of course, in 2006, we had the email, Cindy Anderson telling Mr. Pullum, the 3 commissioners are good to go. Several other emails that flew around during that time. We would point out to you that the 3 commissioners that were good to go in 2006 were this very same 3 commissioners that voted to purchase the Pullum property.
Don't forget the $900,000 appraisal.
Right, and then. Well, you can't get past that. The total big issue here is, ladies and gentlemen, we had an appraiser who's worked for the county many years, who appraised that property at $900,000.
Yes.
Mr. Pullum's appraiser appraised it at $3.4 million, and then we have an email where Cindy Anderson tells the county attorney, here's the appraiser we want you to use again.
This was a different from Pullum's
a different appraiser. And he comes up with 3.2.
So they split the difference.
Right, and
let's just point out that the appraisals, the high appraisals, compared it to, was it Fort Walton
Destin and downtown,
right.
And Gulf Breeze proper, Destin, Florida. Never used any comps in Santa Rosa.
Because, and I think we've joked, well, why didn't they just compare it to Manhattan and Tokyo?
Right.
Because that's what they'd like it to be.
Run it on up to $1 million an acre.
Right.
Why waste your time at $33,000 an acre? Well, ladies and gentlemen, any additional news that comes out, or anything else that comes out from the State Attorney's Office, we're certainly going to update you. Once again, we want to say thank you to our veterans, and for all that you do for this country and your families that support you. And we hope you have a nice day, and we'll see you next week. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Good night.